Do you,
Okay,
all
everyone,
right.
it is 12:30. So this is the second of our lunchtime lectures, trying to bring the park to you. My name is Cheryl. I'm the Community Development Director here at the Conservancy. You see on camera Guilherme Goncalves, our head gardener at the park, and our communications manager, Grace, is on the line too. She's going to be interviewing him today. We just thought we'd launch today's, we'd launch a quick poll. We're just interested if you guys are in the city or if you're elsewhere. So I'm gonna launch the poll right now and you can tell us where you're logging in from. I always try and say calling in, but you're really logging in. Oh, okay, results are coming in. And I'll give it another 5 seconds or so. It looks like a lot of you are in the village, actually. All right, and another 5 seconds and I'm just gonna close off. Oh, those birds sound great. All right, so Guy, there's 43% of folks are calling in from the village. 36% are outside the city, so they don't know what the park looks like as of right now. And 21% are calling from in New York City, just not in the village. So this is great. I've been in Brooklyn, so I haven't been able to see the park, and it's really fun to it's really fun to get to share with you today. So I'm going to stop talking and let Grace and Guy take over, but I just wanted to welcome you all to our second lunchtime lecture, and we're looking forward to seeing what's blooming there, Guy.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Cheryl. So again, for anyone that signed on in the last few minutes, if you've got any questions, you can use the chat function or the question and answer box. We'll save some time at the end for your questions, just so that Guy can lead us through, and then we'll ask him. So Guy, where are you now?
I am at the LaGuardia Place entrance. You know, just to my right, it's going towards the arch and the fountain.
All right, you want to take it away? What are we looking at first?
Sure. You know, and I want to say it's great to have this chance, you know, to show the park around, especially to the folks who cannot come to the park. A lot's been done. We've been putting in a lot of work, so I'm a gardener, so I love showing you folks the stuff that we've been doing. And I just want to give a shout out also to Dwayne and Tyson, the other two gardeners who put in a lot of work. Of course, the Conservancy, right? That's, you guys make it all happen. And fix my mask. So let me show you some of the stuff we've been doing. And please give me feedback if I move too quickly with the camera, right? So you all can see. So this here, let me switch the camera. This is one of the lawns that we renovated last fall. It's currently closed. But tomorrow we're gonna mow it, and we're actually gonna open it for the weekend. This weekend, yes. It's that we're going to open it for the June concerts, but since those are not gonna happen, we're just gonna open it tomorrow and leave it open for Memorial Day weekend.
By the stage.
By the stage, yes. And part of the idea is that just to relieve some pressure.
Oh, hang on, your fingers in front of the camera.
Oh, sorry.
There we go. Why do you close off some of the lawns?
All right. So the lawns need to be restored and renewed. And a couple of things we do with them is relieve some of the compaction. And we put new seed down so they can be restored. So we have to close them when we do those, especially when we seed. We have to close the lawn so the seedlings have time to grow and fill in the lawn. If we were to open the lawn immediately, the seedlings wouldn't be strong enough to sustain the traffic.
Got it.
All right. So And this is part of our lawn management plan, which is to close a lawn on each side of the park every year. And in that way, we do a rotation. So we don't have no more than 2 lawns closed at a time. And also that gives the trees a break too from the compacted soils. It let their roots regenerate throughout that year.
Can you explain a little bit more what happens, how the trees get compacted and what that does to them?
So all roots and tree roots included need oxygen. And when a soil gets compacted from traffic, that literally squeezes the air out of the soil. As much as 35–40% of a soil is oxygen. And when the soil gets very compacted, there's no oxygen there. And the roots can't breathe. And then you get root problems. The tree weakens up.
Got it.
Yeah. All right. Now I want to show you a few, let me turn the camera here. I want to show you a few spots that, especially for people who can't come to the park to see the color that's, hold on. Switch camera. There you go. Right. I'm walking now towards the arch and the fountain. And a lot of the nepeta, the catmint, is blooming right now. And you're also going to see some allium, which is actually ornamental garlic. Let me show you.
So when you say ornamental, does that mean that there's no garlic growing underneath it?
There is, but it's not edible. It grows exactly like a garlic. It forms the bulb and the bulblets, but it's not edible. And it's grown for the showy flower, not for its edible qualities.
So which is which? You mentioned catmint and allium. Which is which?
Catmint is the spike, the spike of the purple here. All that you can see now is catmint, and the bees are busy. They're going all over the place. I don't know if I can capture that with the camera, but all of this is catmint right here. And the allium, I'm gonna walk into the bed. Please never walk into the beds. That was a joke. But this is the allium.
Beautiful.
And we've been planting more. Let me turn this around. We've been planting more and more of those. There were many when I started working in the park, but every year we've been adding. Last year alone, we added 70,000 naturalizing bulbs. And naturalizing bulbs are bulbs that we leave in the ground, and they propagate by themselves, either by seed or by bulblets. And we don't dig them out of the ground. So over the years, their numbers just increase. So we've been adding. This is my 3rd year now, so we are close to 200,000 bulbs. In this fall, we're gonna add another great number, and that we do to make early spring and late winter very colorful. This bed here, for example, it's been blooming since March. Mid-March, we had some of the anemone come up, and then the daffodils, and now we have the nepeta. So there's been a continuous bloom since mid-March.
And is that part of your plan for the park? Is that part of the planting plan?
That is part of the design intent, yes. We're filling in as much as we can with these naturalizing bulbs to create these carpets, to create these sweeps, which go really well along with the design of the park, the horticultural design, right? The landscape design with these drifts of perennials. Perennials are plants that keep coming back year after year. We do plant some annuals, but the great majority of our plants are perennials. And we leave them there in the ground. And one of the reasons is that they perennials especially need some time to grow and reach their full potential. So if you were to be planting and removing plants all the time, they wouldn't have the time to really fill in an area and you know, occupy that space the way they want to. Yes. And on this side, let me show you here. I'm gonna turn you and as you can see, the park is very popular, even in times like this, especially in times like this, I believe, because people need a break, right? They need to refresh, they need to clear their minds. And I think that's why the park is one of the reasons why a park is so popular, especially our park here. These are the flower buds of a camassia. Camassia is also called a wild hyacinth. It's native to the Pacific Northwest. And we've been planting lots and lots of these. They are great. They're beautiful in and of themselves, and they bloom later than most of the spring blooming bulbs. So these are just picking up in other parts of the park. Here they haven't started opening yet. I do see a couple flowers opening there. Let me give you a close-up of that.
Guy, can you tell us which of the plants in the park are the most popular with the pollinators, the butterflies and the bees?
Right now, the nepeta, it changes, right? It changes throughout the seasons. Right now, it's the nepeta. It's so profuse right now that the moment I stop and look, I see all the movement happening in there. So yeah, so right now it's the nepeta. Later on, I mean, the nepeta will keep blooming for a long time, but we do have agastache that will attract a lot of pollinators. We have some asters that attract a lot of pollinators and butterflies as well.
Great. It was World Bee Day yesterday, so I guess they know that they're being celebrated.
That is, which one? That's called camassia or wild hyacinth.
It's gonna flower, right?
Yes, you see a couple there
Oh,
opening.
right, yeah.
Yes. No problem.
We have a live question.
Yes. And this is the katsura tree. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous tree. It's after the crab apples, it's one of the very first to fully leaf out and be dense like that. Whereas many of our other trees have not leafed out completely. The katsura is one of the first to really put on a show.
And can you talk a little bit about the difference in the plantings that you have to do, whether it's sunny or shady, because the park has a lot of canopy cover, doesn't it?
Yes, so most of the park is shade, part shade, and that affects the plant choice, right? I can't put a sun plant in the shade. Some can tolerate more than others, but it's about the right place in the right place. And sometimes that also goes with trial and error. Sometimes the plant does prefers shade, but it may not work out for some reason. So there's a lot of trying out plants. We've been adding some new varieties and keeping with the design intent, right? We have large drifts of plants. So yeah, so we do, but then again, we do have some sunny spots, and we try to maximize those with color. And that's the spot with the nepeta is one of those, for example. That's one of our sunniest spots. We do have a few of them in the park. But then we also want to keep the unity going, the unity of the design. So you are going to see the nepeta and the agastache, a lot of our plants, both shade and sun, being repeated throughout the park. That unifies the park. It creates a sense of continuity. You know, it brings some comfort too, to see the same plant repeating itself. It just ties everything in together, and it creates a really bold landscape. becomes, I remember when I came here, after I became a professional gardener, and I remember walking to the park and being overwhelmed in a good way of the boldness of the park, right? The overall design of the park. And I think George Villanicas, who's the landscape architect who redesigned the park, he did I love it. I love the park. I love the way it's done, the historical elements of it, the winding paths, the more urban settings of the park in the middle of the park, and the planting design. I think it's so bold and it's so appropriate for this park because it's a bold park. You know, it's a historical park. A lot happens here, a lot of music, a lot of dance, a lot of performance. And I think the landscape follows suit with that. And so it's great. I remember when I came in and I was overwhelmed by that sense of boldness. And that's something that I've kept close to me. That's that awe, that sense of boldness. It's like walking to a national forest and being overwhelmed by that beauty, but not being able to pinpoint one specific element. I think it's the collective of the whole park that does it for me, that brings that beauty out. And I try to keep that close to me when I'm looking at plants, when we're planting some beds.
So you touched on something before when you talked about the fact that it's a very urban park. Can you tell me a little bit about the difficulties that causes for you sometimes?
Yes, so it poses a lot of challenges, right? No plant likes to be stepped on. You know, it's so the traffic is that's what it makes the park, right? It's the use of the park. It's a people's park. A lot of people use it, and a lot of traffic, and that brings some wear and tear on the landscapes. So in a way, it's a form of Zen gardening, like doing things again that get undone. That's a big challenge. It keeps it exciting too, and that forces me to think of ways of doing plantings that can withstand some of those challenges. So we've been experimenting with plants. We've figured some things out, like our bed protection that we added throughout the park, in a way that it's not invasive. The bed protection, it's very inconspicuous, but it does the trick of protecting the beds, especially in late winter when things are just coming up. And not everybody is aware that there are plants there, that plants actually go dormant and they come back up. So especially in that very crucial moment when they're just coming up, it was very important to add the bed protection so those plants can actually survive.
And what kind of plants are good protection?
Liriope, for example, it's a plant that we use a lot, and it's a wonderful plant in the sense that it's there. We usually use it as a buffer zone. For example, there is a lawn, and then right next to the lawn there is a garden bed. So in between the purple coneflower, for example, and the lawn, we usually put a buffer of liriope. So for those people who actually step over the garden protection, they would be stepping on the liriope and not on the purple coneflower, because the liriope can stand more damage than a purple coneflower can.
So it's a combination of fencing and hardy plants to really make sure everything that's a little more delicate stays safe?
Yes. And doing and redoing. We just noticed now that squirrels, especially in the southeast of the park, and I just realized this, there are a lot of baby squirrels there, and they actually like to play with the plants that we just planted. So that's a new challenge there. And the way I'm going to address it is that in that bed, I'm only going to plant in the fall when the squirrels are not juvenile anymore, and they won't be playing with those plants anymore.
Great. Guy, is there anything else flowering you want to show us before I start in on some great questions we've got from the audience?
I can walk around in the park showing everything. Yeah, let me show you some more.
Okay, maybe I'll ask while you walk.
Okay.
So we've got a great question about why there aren't signs that put plant names and tree names on them in the beds.
All right, that's a good question. Part of the reason is that it's for the overall experience. We are not a botanical garden. And adding the plant names could take away from the overall experience of the park. It's a design decision. Not to take away from the overall experience.
Guy, this is Cheryl. I'm just weighing in on this because it's the Parks Department has gone back and forth with whether they want to do that or don't want to do that, and it's changed over the years. You might even see a few remnant signs from a time when folks did want at the Parks Department to identify plants. But I think your note about not being a botanical garden often also really plays into that fact about the types of plants that we also plant. You know, you're not going to find the most exotic plants in Washington Square because it's really built for people. And our plants really need to kind of support how people use it, right? I mean, it's a great question though. It comes up all the time.
Yes.
And we've got a question about the trees themselves. Do you have to do any work pruning them to help retain their shape or retrain them to a new shape?
I do. When the tree is too tall that I cannot reach forestry, or if the work is major limbs, forestry does it.
Who is forestry?
Forestry is the division of parks with the arborists, the tree people, right? They are the ones, the climbers and the pruners. They're inspectors with forestry, and they go and they inspect the trees that need to be touched. But that being said, if there is a broken branch, for example, that's hanging on a tree, we do that. We take it down. We have the means to take that branch down. The smaller trees, especially the young trees, we prune them. We do some corrective pruning. On the shrubs, we do many types of pruning. We do some reduction cuts. We rejuvenate the shrubs when they're growing out of proportion. So yes, we do touch the trees up to an extent.
And is any of that also about not just the look of the tree, but limbing up for quality of life in the park?
Yes. All right. So this, because of the demands of a public park like this, some of the pruning has to be done for very utilitarian purposes, right? The NYPD, the police, has to be able to see through a landscape. So sometimes we have to limb the trees up because of that.
Got it. And we've got a really interesting question about the wildlife in the park right now. Are you seeing different birds or an increase in the amount of wildlife because there are fewer people in the park and the skies seem to be a bit clearer?
I have not noticed an increase, but I mean, the birds are migrating. They were, I've been following that. They've been coming through. The hawks are back. I think that the female hawk is back. She's still around, and the juvenile hawks are here. Yes, I mean, the animals are here. A lot of birds are coming through. They pass
we
by.
can hear them in the background.
Yes, it's been a lot quieter. So yeah, they're probably having a blast, having the park for themselves.
And we've got two more questions, but one of them is a general park question that I'm going to ask to Cheryl, actually. But one more question for you, Guy. what is your favorite flower or tree?
I don't have one. I have so many.
Well, then this season, right now, what's your
in
favorite?
this season, right now, I love the tree is the katsura. I love it right now. And the flowers, the nepenthes are gorgeous. The camassia, the anemone, the common name is windflower. That was my favorite. That's my favorite bulb. The nepeta now is a perennial, herbaceous perennial. Now it's my favorite. And also, and that's because of the color. But then we have a lot of interesting foliage plants. We planted this one called Ligularia. And right now there are no flowers. The flowers are spectacular, but the foliage itself is so gorgeous. And I think of that when we're planting. We're also, especially in the shades, I'm thinking of interesting textures, interesting foliages, different shapes, different colors. Because even in the shade, you can brighten up the landscape with the right choice of plants. So yeah, the heuchras, coral bells, that's the common name. Those are looking spectacular right now too. And that's just the foliage. Some heuchera has flowered, and in a drift, in a mass planting of heuchera, they are really spectacular. So yes, I don't have one favorite, but quite a few.
It's like asking you to pick a favorite child. You can't.
Yes. Yeah, and I can't say it too loud because they're gonna hear it.
All right, Guy, thank you so much. Cheryl, we've just got one more question that I'm actually going to direct to you. It's about the upcoming holiday weekend, and are there going to be any limits to the number of visitors, or, moving past the holiday weekend as we get into the summer? Are there going to be any limiting of the number of people, and if so, how?
That's a really great question. I was actually part of a call with the Parks Commissioner on Monday. So Parks and the city have asked the NYPD to kind of monitor what's going in the parks. We know of a couple of parks right now that have gotten some limited admission. So Domino Park in Brooklyn, Hudson River Park, Sheep's Meadow in Central Park. It's really NYPD's call, and they're not really saying, okay, if this many come in per acre. They're really kind of doing it by site right now, which, I mean, isn't the best thing ever, but everyone's really just doing what they can right now to try and keep things safe. But NYPD is monitoring. We know there have been some days where there have been some issues with people being too close, not social distancing. NYPD has handed out some summons. In general, I think the 6th precinct has been mainly having a light touch. But there's this. We want people to enjoy the parks. We know open space is safer than being in enclosed areas. So they're trying as best they can to keep it as open as possible. But again, it will be an NYPD decision if that does happen. And we haven't heard anything yet that there will definitely be some limiting this coming weekend. So that's what I know for right now. So.
All right, well, with that, we are exactly on time. It is 1 p.m. Guy, thank you so much. Do you want to flip the camera around and give us one last look at the park?
Well, sure. I didn't walk very far. Oh, hold on. Did it go? No.
Nope, we're looking at you.
All right. Yeah.
And as Guy is giving us one last look of the park, I just want to say, the Conservancy has put in a lot of funding to our gardening program in the last few years. Before we were funding the park, there wasn't a Guy, there wasn't a Dwayne. We had a half-time gardener for all of the district. So now we have 2.5 gardeners. We still have that half-time district gardener who is Tyson, but Guy and Dwayne are at Washington Square Park full-time, and that's because of you. So folks like you who love the park and contribute I've put our website up there. You know, if this is what you like to see in Washington Square Park, we hope you continue to support us. So a thank you to you all who have made these gardeners possible here.
Thank you, everyone. Guy, thank you. The park looks beautiful.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you all. We'll see you at the next lunchtime lecture, which Grace, that date is June 4th.
That is 2 weeks from today, which, yes, I believe is June 4th. And I am actually on the schedule. I am going to be giving a little glimpse into the back end of our communications and how I collect some of the great Washington Square Park stories that you all have a chance to read on our website and in our newsletter. So hope to see you there. We'll send out a link to sign up for that. This has been recorded. This webinar was recorded. So I'll follow up with all of you and send the video recording so you can relive the experience whenever you'd like.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much, Guy, for taking time.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.